Honestly, I still can't find an explanation for what happened to me a year ago. Sometimes it feels like it was just a nightmare, a random breakdown caused by exhaustion. But too many things still won't let me sleep peacefully. I'm not recording this for attention or sympathy. I guess I just want to convince myself that I'm not losing my mind. My name is Michael. I'm 40 years old. I'm a long-haul truck driver. My life is the road. One city, then another, then another. Loading, unloading, paperwork, signatures, stamps. People like to think trucking is freedom. In reality, it's just constant fatigue, cold coffee, and loneliness. I don't have a family. It just never worked out. And honestly, I always felt like I wasn't made for a normal life. I spend too much time in the cab. You get used to silence. You get used to eating alone. You get used to sleeping wherever you stop. And over time, you notice something strange. Loneliness hurts at first, then it becomes familiar. And once it's familiar, it's like skin. So, about a year ago, I had a routine job. Nothing mysterious. No legends, no cursed highways. Just another delivery I would have forgotten the next day, if not for what happened next. I arrived at our station around 5 in the evening. It was about 5 p.m. The sun was already going down, leaving behind that dull gray light that makes everything look washed out. Autumn. Late autumn. Damp. Unpleasant. Trailers stood around the yard. The air smelled of diesel and wet asphalt. Forklifts rattled somewhere in the distance, and someone was smoking under a canopy, hiding their hands in their sleeves. A normal work scene. Mikhail, my boss, was already waiting for me. He was one of those rare supervisors who never raised his voice, never tried to act like a king. A calm guy, neat, always said hello, always asked how you were, and it didn't feel fake. "All right, Michael," he said. "This load isn't simple. It's expensive. About $100,000. He spoke evenly, but I noticed his eyebrow twitch slightly, like even he was a bit uneasy. 700 kilometers. Best case, you'll make it in 9 hours. Worst case, stops, traffic, weather, 12. You good?" I shrugged. "No problem. If you say it needs to be done, it'll be done." Mikhail smiled. "That's why I value you. You never complain and never make a drama out of things." He handed me the keys, a few papers, the route sheet. We said goodbye, and I headed for the truck. The cab greeted me with a familiar smell. Plastic, dust, a bit of oil and coffee that someone had spilled on the floor mat ages ago and never fully cleaned. I started the engine. It purred steadily, confidently. I stepped out, bought some coffee and a snack at the station, tossed everything into the cab, and hit the road. The first few hours were calm. The highway was just a highway. The radio mumbled some music. Sometimes news came through, sometimes just static. I drove and thought about nothing in particular. But closer to night, my thoughts grew heavy. Fatigue settled over me like a wet blanket. Coffee stopped helping. It just tasted bitter. I stopped a few times to stretch, splash water on my face from a bottle, walk around the truck so I wouldn't fall asleep. And every time I got back behind the wheel, it felt like the night had grown a little thicker. About 6 hours in, it was fully dark. My headlights carved a narrow strip out of the blackness, and on both sides of the road stood a wall of forest, dark, motionless, almost painted. There was no wind, no rustling, not even insects. Too quiet. I was used to forest roads. But that night, it felt like I had entered a place where sound simply disappeared. As if someone had turned the world off. That's when I noticed a dark shape on the road. I slowed down, turned on the hazard lights, and stopped. It was a deer. Or rather, what was left of it. The body was torn apart, as if the animal hadn't just been killed, but played with. Its insides were exposed. Ribs jutted out. The wounds were deep and fresh, not bite marks, but cuts, as if made by something sharp. The smell of blood was strong, fresh. I knew it had happened recently, a couple of hours ago at most. I'd seen wolf tracks, I'd seen bear signs, but no animal leaves its prey like that, right in the middle of the highway. And none of them tear a body apart so strangely. I felt uneasy. I quickly got back into the cab, shut the door, and drove on. Only when the deer vanished into the darkness behind me did I notice my hands were trembling. 30 minutes later, I started seeing scraps on the road. Small at first, then larger. Red chunks of meat scattered across the asphalt, as if something had been dragged along the highway and dropped pieces along the way. I stopped again, got out, shined my flashlight. The blood was fresh, and the tracks. I'm no expert, but they weren't hooves or paws. They were long, smeared marks, like something heavy had been dragged. And beside them, marks as if something sharp occasionally scraped the ground. I got back into the cab. I didn't want to stay outside for even a second longer. As I drove on, I kept glancing at the trees. I didn't see anything, but I had this feeling, like something was standing there, not moving, not breathing, just waiting. At some point, the radio started cutting out. The signal vanished, came back, vanished again. And between the static, I thought I heard breathing. Heavy, dull. I turned the radio off. The cab became even quieter. I could hear only the engine and my own heartbeat. I just wanted to get through that stretch of forest, to see lights, people, normal life. And eventually I did see lights. A gas station ahead. Small, isolated, yellow glow under a canopy. Thank God, I thought. I can grab something, talk to the cashier, hear a human voice. I pulled off the highway and immediately felt something wrong. Like the air had grown heavier. Like I hadn't pulled into a gas station, but into a trap. Gravel crunched under the tires. The lights were on, but the glow felt dirty, dim, like the bulbs were about to burn out. No cars, no people. I shut off the engine and stepped out. Silence. No wind. Even the sign didn't move. The store door was slightly open. Strange, I thought. If it's open, someone has to be here. I went inside. It smelled like cheap baked goods, gasoline, and something else. Metal. Blood. I didn't realize it right away, but my nose caught it instantly. "Hello?" I called out. "Anyone here?" No answer. I walked to the counter. No cashier. Just a phone lying on the counter, screen still glowing, like it had been dropped moments ago. I stepped around the counter and saw the body. A guy, maybe 20 years old. His legs lay separately, like sacks. One arm was gone. Blood pooled beneath him. And the worst part? He was alive. His chest rose and fell. His eyes were wide open, unfocused. His lips trembled. I crouched beside him, wanted to say something, call an ambulance, but my fingers refused to move. I felt frozen. Suddenly he jerked, grabbed my sleeve with surprising strength, as if it was his last chance, and screamed in a hoarse voice, "Get the hell out of here! It's in the back room!" After that, he coughed, blood spilling from his mouth. I slowly turned my head toward the door leading to the storage room. It was dark, and something was moving in that darkness. Too fast, too quiet. There was a sound, like claws scraping against tile. and then heavy, rapid footsteps. I bolted, burst outside, nearly tripping over the threshold, jumped into the cab, shoved the key in, turned it. Nothing. Turned it again. Nothing. The engine didn't even cough. Behind me came a scream. Not human. A howl that made my hair stand on end. Then the boy's shriek, and a sound like something being torn apart. I turned the key again. This time, the engine roared to life. I slammed the gas pedal and tore off like a madman. I sped down the highway without looking back. The headlights shook over bumps. My hand slipped on the steering wheel. I tried to breathe evenly, but my breath kept breaking. After about 10 minutes, I finally looked in the mirror. At first, I saw nothing. For a moment, I even thought, maybe it stayed there. Maybe it was something else. It appeared in bursts, as if it wasn't running, but shortening the distance in jumps, like space itself bent around it. Then, at the edge of the headlight's reach, I noticed movement. Then it stepped fully onto the road. The creature was over 2 meters tall. Its skin was white, almost paper-like. Its arms were too long, ending in claws. Its eyes were black voids. And its mouth was wrong. Too wide. Inside, teeth glinted, thin, sharp, like blades. But the worst part wasn't how it looked. The worst part was how it moved. Not like an animal, not like a human. It was as if it adjusted itself to my speed, as if it didn't need to chase me, as if it simply decided to be near. I tried to call someone, grabbed my phone, no signal, 0 bars. Like the world ended on that stretch of road. I tossed the phone onto the seat and stared ahead. Then the truck was hit from the side, once, hard enough to jerk the wheel and nearly throw me off my lane. A second later, another hit, even stronger. The side mirror shook. It was trying to force me off the road. I imagined myself in a ditch, the engine stalling, the door opening, and it leaning down to me, like I was just meat. Cold sweat ran down my spine. I floored the accelerator. The speedometer trembled, the needle crept up. But a truck isn't a car. It accelerates slowly. And the road ahead was a black tunnel stretching endlessly. The creature closed in again. I saw it raise its arm, and in that moment I did the only thing that came to mind. I swerved sharply and slammed the side of the truck into it. The impact was dull, like hitting a sack of bones. The thing flew aside and hit the asphalt. I kept driving without slowing down, waiting for it to reappear, and it did. But farther back, not right beside me anymore. Like it had grown cautious, like it was studying me now. I drove like that for another hour and a half. Sometimes I thought it was gone. Then I'd see it again, a white shape in the darkness, moving at the edge of the light. And only when the forest began to thin, when road signs appeared, lights, the occasional car, did it stop. I saw it one last time at the edge of the trees. It stood in the shadows, and it screamed. A sound full of rage, full of hunger. I don't know why, but I screamed back, not recognizing my own voice. "I'm not your dinner tonight, you bastard!" Only then did I realize my voice was shaking, like I was crying. I reached my destination after 11 hours. The load was accepted without issues. The dock workers checked the seals, the paperwork, everything was in order. The client even smiled and said something like, "Great, thanks." I stood there, nodded, and felt like I'd returned from another world. I went to the station cafeteria, got some food, sat down. People were around me. They talked, laughed, argued about sports. And it all felt unreal, like I had just been somewhere beyond normal life. And this world had no idea that something else existed right beside it. I went back to the cab and tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw white skin in the mirror and that mouth. I heard the scream at the gas station, felt the impact against the truck. In the morning, I drove back, and as I passed that gas station, I saw police cars, flashing lights, tape blocking off the area. People walking around with flashlights, taking pictures. I didn't stop. Not because I didn't care, but because I was afraid of feeling that air again. That weight. That silence. When I got back to my city, Mikhail was waiting at the station. He looked at me and frowned. "Michael, you look like you aged 10 years. Everything okay?" I wanted to tell him. I really did. To spill everything about the deer, the meat, the boy, the creature, the hits against the truck. But I already knew how it would sound. A truck driver. Tired. Night. Forest. Hallucinations. "I'm fine," I said. "Just a rough road." Mikhail patted my shoulder and handed me the money. "Here, 2,000, and take a week off. That run wasn't easy. Get some rest." "Thanks, boss," I said. "You're always good to me." We said goodbye, and I drove home. At home, I slept almost a full day. Then I woke up and realized I wasn't rested at all, because the sleep wasn't sleep. I dreamed I was driving through the forest again, and in the rearview mirror, the white shape kept getting closer, closer, and closer. I woke up drenched in sweat. The next day, I turned on the news. They showed that same gas station. The reporter said the cameras weren't working, that the suspect hadn't been identified, that it was most likely a wild animal. I stared at the screen and thought only one thing. Yeah, sure. I turned the TV off. I'm writing this now because I need to calm myself somehow. My week off is almost over, and soon I'm supposed to get back on the road. I picked up my phone, opened my contacts, and stared at Mikhail's number, and I understood. I won't be able to drive highways anymore, especially at night, especially near forests. I don't know what it was, but I know one thing. It's out there, and if you're driving alone, it knows.